All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Ricky Mendoza, and I'm here. First of all, this is the Anti-Show, and thank you all very much for watching. I'm here with my lovely friend, Patricia Vonne. Patricia, I don't do handshakes. I do hugs. And I've known you, it's crazy, because the other day I heard your song, Tráeme Paz, but we first worked together. Get this.
The peace song. That's the peace song.
Soledad.
Oh, Soledad, yes.
Remember?
That's when we first worked together.
Yes.
That's when we first met.
First off, please, because many people do not know who you are.
We met 5 albums ago. He chose a song off of my debut album called Soledad, and used it for your independent film. I'm an independent artist, so it was very impressive to meet you.
How many films? Because this is the reason because I have this belief that I can learn from anyone. All right, and this is the reason why I wanted to bring you on the show, because there's a lot of musician friends out there that I have that think and believe, not only think, they actually believe that there's no hope for them in the music industry. And for all you babies out there, this girl has been doing it the independent route since 2003, 2002?
2003 was when my debut album came out. Yeah, I just had a million flashbacks to it. It's hard work. It is hard work, standing up for your music, standing up for yourself, and that's what it really boiled down to. Is my first album, which is my debut album, self-titled. It was on a record label out of LA, but they were in breach of contract so fast. It was before he was even manufactured, and it was like having to save my child.
Right.
So I said, what do I have to do to get this out there to the people in 3 weeks' time? Well, 2 weeks it takes to manufacture the album. I had to go and get my record label name, the barcode, copyright, all that stuff. That was like 4 major things I had to do. And basically it was be an independent artist. At least you're your own priority. But that's what happened. I was on the label, and I was going to give myself over to them and trust them. But I think it was providential, because I decided every single album, unless a contract was handed to me by a record label that really knew what they were doing, but it was all talk. It wasn't really action. And I'm a person of action, and I'm like, I'm not gonna screw myself over. I'm gonna take care of this. It's my child, and there are 10 songs on this album, or 12 or 14. I'm gonna do the right thing. I'm gonna do the right thing and just put it out. It takes work. It does take money to do that, but if you have a vision, you're going to go for it. And I'm about to release my 6th album, which is a compilation of all the Spanish songs that were on each of those, because every one of my albums is bilingual. Wow. And the reason for that is it's my heritage. It's who I am. It's my identity. And it means a lot to me to have all my albums bilingual. So I figured, why not for the 6th one, just compile all the Spanish songs and put them out.
I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, me too. It's La Raza. It's Patricia Vonne Rodriguez. So they'll understand everything, I think, once this album comes out.
That's so cool. Well, and that's the main reason, and that's the main focus, that I really admire what you do. Not only musically, because I'm an independent artist as well, but it takes a lot of hard labor, intensive work. And
it does.
My musician acquaintances, because I do have a lot of musician friends that just put out their material and just hustle their butts off. Mm-hmm. But I have another acquaintances, I guess. They're the complainers, and they're the people that is like, they love to make music and they have a passion for music, but they're like, no, the music industry is dead and blah 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 blah. It's not. Look, and this is why. And here is a prime example of why being an independent artist rules, but it's going to take a lot of hard work. And this is what I was getting at when I said I really admire what you do, not only because of your music, which is wonderful, but also because of your hustle, of your hard damn work. No. Say this. I mean, just because all throughout these years that I've known you, that we've worked together, that we've helped each other out,
Yes.
I'm just in admiration and awe because one thing is making the product. One thing is, playing around, blah, blah, blah. You make the music, you record them. She goes into a studio, she hustles and she gets a studio together and you make the music, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's an independent artist who's been independent since 2002 or something like that. Has released 5 albums and is about to release her 6th album. All independent, all hustle, all hard work by this woman right here. All right? And not only, it was like, hang on. It's like, it's like, whatever, I can release my own album. Yeah. And she's been on tour independently here in the United States and in Europe. She hustles, actually makes the calls to, to get a, what is it called, a promoter?
Well, in Europe we do have our bookers, thank goodness, and here I pretty much tour regionally. I mean, for an independent artist to tour all over America, that kudos to them. That is another realm of, it's, you have to really love what you do. I love what I do, but you have to know what you want. Yes. And I'm content, touring regionally and touring in Europe. When you're in Europe, the audiences are so respectful and just love rock and roll, American rock and roll. My music is a combination of, I'm from San Antonio, Texas, so my music is a melange of music. It's a diverse hybrid of, Castilian meets Mexico meets all-American rock and roll. So I incorporate my castanets in our performance. We have a very dynamic show. I love to dance. I love to incorporate, flamenco moves and ballet and some Bruce Lee kicks. I'm all over the stage, but the audience is with me the whole time. I'm not just putting on a performance just for myself. It's like feed off of the energy in the audiences. And the people in Europe, we played Lithuania, festivals in Lithuania, Prague. We represented the state of Texas at the World Expo in Japan. We just played the Montreux Jazz Festival, and we were the critics' pick, but it was because it was like flamenco-style Texas rock. That's how they put it. So it's whatever they see, whatever they feel, write it out, but the music stands on its own because it's my music. It's all original.
And it's all original music, and that's another thing. You go tour to Europe. You make your own music. You produce everything. It's just like crazy to me. It's just really crazy to me.
I think artists, they why keep it to themselves? Why? I mean, that's what they do. Artists are there to share it. I mean, what's the point of doing your art if you're not able to really share it or put, on gallery openings or concerts? And it's I feel the need to put it out, and then that's my art. That's my legacy.
I love that. Yes. Well, and
your filmmaking. I mean, we did many music videos together. Mujeres Desaparecidas. We went, to Juarez, Mexico, to bring, a prayer-like battle cry for the families of missing women in Juarez, because we felt strongly about that. I felt strongly about that. It was more of a prayer for the families that felt that they were forgotten. That was one of my most important songs that I will ever write. But I did it because it started here. And I think for any artist, myself speaking for myself, it has to start here. And then if people are inclined to listen to the music, they can. But I think it's all in the songs. Like you had mentioned before, it's the soundtrack of our lives. Life is a movie. And my songs are my soundtrack of my life.
Isn't that crazy?
It's awesome.
Cool. That's so beautiful, Patricia. This is not over, but I just wanted to... I felt the need to give you a hug.
It's a love break.
Yes. Well, anyway, what I was going to mention was what I'm alluding to, I guess, is obviously now you do tours in Europe, and now you fill the clubs, and she opens up, I guess, for festivals, right? You play in festivals.
We perform in pubs. We perform in outdoor festivals. We'll do rock and roll clubs. We do the whole gamut. We'll do cultural centers. We'll do we do weddings and everything. So we do.
And give me an example of a time when you've really struggled in this career. And that's also another thing. And let me preface this question with a little history on who Patricia Vonne, at least to what I know. No, just because I mean,
curious
you're
too.
very interesting figure. Your brother is Robert Rodriguez, and your father is Cecilio Rodriguez, a very good friend of mine. And here's also another kind of misconception, I guess, when people are kind of related to people that are doing well off or famous or whatnot. It's oh yeah, well I mean yeah, she's an independent artist. Oh, but of course her brother or her dad or whatever, because her dad is a really prominent businessman in San Antonio. And a really cool dude, Cecilio. But they have this belief that, oh yeah, it's really? And of course, you don't reveal your jobs, but she holds 2 jobs, which is actually 3 jobs with her music career. And this is how hustle works. This is how hard work works, all right? You put in your hours, you have bills to pay, you pay them, right? Mm-hmm. But in those hours that are not work job hours, you just hustle your tush off.
I'll answer that. I think, with my brother, he makes films, but I have another brother and a sister who are also directors, and they've done a lot of my music videos. But as far as nepotism or riding on someone's coattails, I'm so protective of him. So unless I'm asked in an interview about him, if there's some, because he's always busy doing something, I'm so proud of him. I'll let people know what he's up to. Other than that, I kind of keep it to myself. I'm more out of protection of us as a family. But I think it throws people off, actually. I've had more questions asked if I was related to Stevie Ray Vaughan. So sometimes when they mention Robert Rodriguez, it's oh wow, how did you find out?
It's crazy.
But
I mean, and that's why. Sure. I mean, it's just.
I just don't think about it. I'm so busy.
Well, of course not. Why would you think about it? Because there's there is help or whatever. But I mean, just my sisters helped me out,
Yeah, but I think it's also because as children we were always in his film, so it's nothing new. The only different thing is it's internationally released, and my last role for him, Frank Miller, was Zorro Girl. What a dream to be Zorro Girl! And Frank Miller gave me permission to make my own film, a 2-minute Zorro Girl flick that shows a lot more than you're going to see on screen. So we got to incorporate Bruce Lee moves.
And is that on YouTube? Or?
It's on my website.
Okay, well, cool. We'll link that up in the description.
But I wanted her to be a little more than what you're going to see on screen, because the way my brother edits, it's very, he splices and he cuts and chops. So that's the way he describes it. Splices and he chops. So it's very quick. It's like the 1-inch punch. There you are. Did you see yourself?
Right.
So they gave me permission to do it. And so what I did with the crew and my choreographer, I wanted them to incorporate self-defense moves for everyone to learn if they were ever in a spot. And so I thought that would have been more educational than just doing take out 3 guys in an alleyway. Right. But it's really cool to be able to do that with that character, because I think young women these days need a positive role model. And for me to be given Zorro Girl and do nothing with it, that would have been a travesty.
Of course.
So even in my concerts, sometimes I have the Zorro Girl outfit and I'll rock out without the mask. But, it's this is who I am. This is now a part of me.
Right.
And, she's like my alter ego. So what would Zorro Girl do in a situation like this? And pulls me out of the quicksand every time.
Hell yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, but also coming back to you, and just like Zorro Girl, I bet she's been through hell and back.
Mm-hmm. But she keeps pulling herself up from her bra straps, and she keeps walking.
That is what interests me, because you're always happy. You always have a smile. You're always happy to see people, you know? It's like very genuine and very authentic. And how do you really motivate yourself to keep going? Because we paint this picture as like, yeah, you know, you've done 5 albums, you tour in Europe, but God, it's hard. I mean, because sometimes there's no pay, sometimes there's no.
Yeah, well, you know, I like to keep busy. My father, I get my work ethic from my parents. You know, my mother was a psychiatric nurse. She worked the graveyard shift so she could be home during the day when the children got home from school. There are 10 of us children, so...
Hang on. She worked the graveyard shift.
As a nurse. A lot of women do that. Yeah.
Wow.
I've learned, and I mean, a lot of nurses tend to do that if they have children, so they could be home during the day. Even though they're sleeping, at least they're in the house. That was when my mother really wanted to be home for us. And so what work... That's a tremendous work ethic, right? And my dad was a traveling salesman door to door for 39 years. Door to door, selling cookware, chinaware, and that takes a lot of effort and hard work and ganas. You have to have the desire to put yourself out there and to make a living. So now he does real estate, and I do real estate too, because my mother always said you have to have something to fall back on. And that's so true for me. For some people, I love security, and so, but I have to take care of myself. So that's what I chose to do. So that's what I do as my second job, and it's flexible. I can go to Europe when I want to. I can put on concerts if I want to, and then I'll have the extra money to, let's go into the studio and make another album.
Pause right there. So this should be a lesson for babies like me and for many of us out there. She has security.
I love security.
And freedom.
Libertad.
That's awesome.
I love both. Well, why not? I mean, it's what do you want? What's going to make your life worth living? And so during that time, I mean, I take every single day is busy with something. I don't like to not be doing something, and when I'm not, I love to read at home, and I love to, take time for myself to relax. But for me, relaxation is taking a flamenco dance class, or taking,
something that makes you happy,
Spanish
fulfilled.
class or ballet or something, and going to visit my parents, or fleshing out a guitar song, writing another song.
And how do you mentally get out of a funk, I guess? How do you mentally really that didn't work out? I don't know, maybe a gig didn't pan out, maybe you know what I'm talking about?
I think meditation.
When shit happens, what do?
I see what mood I'm in, and then I'll go from there. If I'm at home, I love to work out at home, so I'll put on my yoga and do that, and it helps me breathe and meditate, and then I'm hungry. Oh, let's go treat myself out to lunch. So I'll take myself out to lunch.
So I guess
take
what I'm
myself
getting
out on dates.
Yes,
it's whatever I am in the mood at that moment.
So I mean, what I'm getting is that you really don't ponder not ponder. You don't really linger on that shit that happens. Is that what I'm getting?
I try not to.
Good. No. I mean, you
have to feel it. You have to feel it and feel the pain, or feel the happiness and feel the motivation, and then it's whatever takes you at that moment where you want to go, where I want to go. Then I'll have options.
Okay. Now
does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I take each day at a time. People have asked me just last week. This man asked me, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" I go, "I don't see past today." And I was with a big smile on my face, like, wow, that makes me feel happy, because it's really what I want. I cannot see myself in 5 years doing anything. What if I'm not even here? And then I was worrying about that for nothing. It's like, okay, today is the day, and I'm going to have a very productive day.
Like we are having
or
right now.
Or a holiday.
But you do have But you do have a savings account for the future, right? I'm kidding. You don't have to answer that.
I like to keep a certain amount in my savings account at all times. If it starts to drip, then I hustle more and keep that as the safety net.
Good. Security is good.
Security, because then I know how much I have to really have fun with.
Right, heck yeah. Well, okay, now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is fear, all right? How do you overcome fear yourself and give me an example in your life, how, or...
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just had a flashback. Fear, I think, is the greatest motivator. Again,
fear is the greatest motivator, okay?
Yeah. I think you could either be the ostrich with your head in the ground, and that's fine for maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes or maybe half a day. But then, okay, what's it going to motivate you to do next? Get yourself out of that. Fear, the first thing that came to my mind was when I was 20 years old, I bought a one-way ticket to Milan, Italy, because I wanted to work over there as a model. Let's say that, okay, because I was living in New York at the time, and I wanted to travel. That was I had wanderlust so bad that it was before I thought, let's start a rock and roll band, and maybe I can go to Europe, and that's what I do now. That was what I needed to find out through the fear factor. So when I went over there, the moment I touched ground, the Gulf War broke out, and I had no return ticket. I didn't even have a credit card. I bought the cheapest airline ticket and just went. I was stuck there for maybe 5 months.
Wow.
And that every day I was fearful. Every day I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me? But I knew I wasn't going to just call my parents or anyone to bail me out. I got myself in that situation. I was going to stay there and figure it out. So I kind of, found what little work I could and just made enough money to come back. But I turned it into let's learn some Italian. Let's meet friends. Let's meet some of the other Americans here. And so that once I got back to America, that's when I decided, okay, time is fleeting. What am I going to do? I have to decide what I want to do. And I said, I want to start a rock and roll band. I want to be a lead singer. I want to travel.
And what age were you?
I was 20 years old.
Wow.
But that taught me that if you turn the next corner, you're going to be 5 years older. And are you still in that state of inertia? Then you're going to turn the next corner. It's going to be 10 years older. Are you still doing the same thing? Or are you hustling to be where you want to be? As soon as I got back from Italy, because it scared the
living shit out
yes.
of you. Yes.
I was like, my gosh, that was harrowing. But it taught me life is going to be fleeting. So what do you want to do? And that was my motivation. I started a band right away. I put an ad out in the Village Voice in New York City. I was interviewing musicians, and then I started playing out and made my 3-song demo, and then moved back to Texas, and that's when my brother started making movies. I was like, oh my gosh, let's keep going down this path, because maybe one day he'll use a song in one of his films, and now this is going to be, he conquered Hollywood. Now Austin, Texas is known as Hollywood, Texas. I don't have to go to LA. So, it just was a snowball effect, but it had to start from here, from me. What do I want to do with my life? And music was my salvation. And music was everything to me. And my mother always told me, if you can write your own song, then you have longevity and you own it. And that's all I had to hear. So every album is original. Every album, because of my heritage, is bilingual, and it makes me happy.
That's awesome, Patricia. Damn it. Well, okay. What would you say to me or to somebody that is really fearful of maybe criticism, rejection, or what?
It's not personal. It's just, do not take it personally. That was just one person. Here's what you can ask yourself. What if you never read that? What if you were never even aware of it? You would have gone on with your day.
Right.
You did read it. It brings you down. Fine, that's just one person's opinion, but your fans will keep coming to your shows, and those are the people that really understand it. And so you have to really care about the 99%ers that really love what you do, not the 1% basura,
Well, this is what motivates me. What motivates me is really regret. I'm really motivated by regret and the fear of regret. I'm fearful of regret. I am fearful that if I wasn't a musician, but I just started being a musician, a folk music man, and I do it. I mean, it's
never too late.
Yeah, I know, and it was embarrassing at the time, and I was fearful of stupid stuff. It was like, oh well, people are gonna think or whatever. But then I was like, who cares?
It's about what you want.
Yeah, and I'm motivated because I don't want, like you said, in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I don't want to live with that regret and say, oh my God, I could have done this. Or I could have done films, I could have done music, I could have done, I could have traveled, I could have done... That's what motivates me, and I just think of that old me, that old person me, and I'm like, I better do something right now.
Good.
What motivates you?
Meditation is really good because that's when and meditation can be, I love to go to church on Sundays. I love it with my mom and dad. We go together. I mean, I go see them on weekends. So that's your time to really think about your life. Or it could just be complete silence, or taking a yoga class or something. So it could be any point during the day.
Okay, can we talk about meditation for a bit, because it's really fascinating to me, because I'm a big fan of the Tim Ferriss podcast. Let's link that up. And in the podcast and the people that I've listened to talk about a lot about the top CEOs, and I'm talking about the creme de la creme, not the little, it's like fascinating individuals. The grand majority of them do some type of meditation. What kind of meditation do you do?
Oh, it runs the gamut from just complete silence, being at home, connecting the heart to the mind, and then just the heart itself. Just like that. Like, what am I doing everything? Is my life balanced? Do I feel at peace most of the time? And if you're not, what is not making me feel that peaceful?
That's interesting. That's kind of like
accounting. And then you really, this phone call, this cold call there, or someone yelled at me this morning, and one of my clients wasn't very, happy with what they had to do on their end, something like that. But then you just step back. Well, how can I make it better? It just depends on the situation, but usually, it took me a long time to figure out. Check in with my feelings first. Check in with how am I feeling. Sometimes I'm so used to, how can I make things better on the other end? And usually it has to start here. Like, that's not going to really work for me. So
interesting.
It's a whole psychology.
Well, like, for example, in the feelings, like, how do you deal with that? To me, feelings are it's something that I don't want to say we can't control, because we can at some point, but shit's going to happen, and you're going to break down at some point, or you're going to feel excitement and ecstasy, and so to me they're kind of like triggers, and they're just kind of like guidance, or they're kind of like, if you feel excited, you just really like nurture it, and how do you deal with your feelings? How do you what is like,
if we're speaking about like music, if like musically, how do I feel about someone using my song in their film? You mean like that? Mm-hmm. It has to be the right context. I had my girlfriend ask me, she was in London film school, and she asked me if she could use a song. So I would read the script first and then see how I felt about the script. But I have to really, and sometimes I say, when it's not in the right context, maybe not. So that's what I mean. It can just give and give and give. I have to be all right with the answer. I guess that's what you're asking.
Yeah. Well, and also for people that really have an inclination towards art, or really have or an inclination, I guess, most about writing, because I love to write poetry and write, they eventually turn into songs or write scripts or whatnot. Mm-hmm. What is your writing process like?
I love simplicity. I love to start with a title and go from there.
That's as simple as it gets.
I started off with 3 chords, and like Hank Williams tunes, and just 3 chords. What can I do with E, A, and D? And then you can write so many songs with just 3 chords, especially when you're just starting out. Don't put yourself in a situation where it's insurmountable. So I learned that it was, for me personally, it was just so much easier to start with the title. And like my songs about my grandmother, Severina, that started off as a title for my grandpa. Tequileros, because he loves to make his own tequila. That was his title. Paris Trance, that was the title. Mud Pies and Gasoline, that was the title. El Cruzado, one of my heroes, Tolariba, who took me to Europe in the first place. My first tour was because of him. So I love to start with titles.
And what about Soledad?
Soledad, that actually started with music because it was a co-write. So my guitar player wrote the music, and then I started filtering in the lyrics, and then Soledad was one of the words in there. I was, oh, that's interesting. Sadness. Let's go with that. Solitude.
Interesting.
So that was backwards. If you have a co-writer, it's a little backwards.
Oh, really? Huh.
Because if they bring it in first, it's already almost created. You know, if I'm starting it, well, then I'll put the stamp of the title on it, and let's go from there.
So, okay, let's say you start with the title. Then, like, what is your best time to write, or is it, how do you get inspiration, or how does that
Oh,
work?
I love to write on the road. I love to write because there's no TV, there's no cell phone, there's no chaos. And I love to write when I'm in Europe. And a lot of Bandolera started in Nuremberg because I wrote it on the hotel stationery. A lot of my songs were written in Europe, a lot of my albums. And then we would flesh them out on the road, performing them out. New songs. My band over there is really great, and they love to learn new songs. So we start a new song. By the time we come home, they're already well oiled to go into the studio and make the next album.
Wow.
Oh, I love it. I love Europe. The scenic views and the audiences. After a show, you're so wired. And just receiving all the love from the audiences. And they say, you know, your music speaks to us. The culture, thank you for bringing culture to us.
Huh.
And that motivates me to write the next song. I mean, how could it not? It's like, my goodness, I would love to come back and see you. Thanks for the invitation. We'll come back next year, and then we have new songs for them.
That's crazy. Well, okay, specifically, like, when do you write? Like, in the morning, is it afternoon, evenings, or what?
It's usually, if I already had a beat on it the night before after a show, because I'm too wired for sound, I start it off. It could be the title, or it could be a melody. Then when I'm in the van the next day and we're on to the next city, I'll pull out the notebook and I'll start writing down the lyrics.
Huh.
Yeah. And then in sound check, I'll start fiddling around with the melody and maybe singing, and then the drummer will kick in, he'll hear a beat, and that's the way it works. It's just putting the meat on the bones.
Wow. And do you put do you write the lyrics first and then the melody, or do you write the melody and
both?
Huh.
It could be both. It could be
interesting.
Yeah.
Like, for example,
Wish I could pull in.
Mujeres Desaparecidas? How did that?
Oh wow, we did the Spanish version of that first, and it was a co-write. Israel Rodriguez co-wrote that with me, and he sent me a poem that he had written and about the missing women in Juarez. And from the first line to the next, it was what you see in the song, because I started singing a melody over it right away. You know, ¿Quién podrá comprender a ver la vida y la injusticia? I was like, wow, this is already a friggin' song. How did he do that?
Oh my God, that's crazy.
I just started reading it and putting a melody, and then I wrote the chorus, you know. En el desierto de lágrimas, mujeres desaparecidas, no se rindan a la oscuridad, mujeres desaparecidas. You know, the title's got to be in the chorus. So, but it was his lyrical contribution that I was able to just sing it as he wrote it out to me, and I was like, wow. And then I decided to bookend that album with the English version, which is not a literal translation, so right. I had written the music and the lyrics for that.
No, and one of the things that really, you know, is bringing me back to when you told me about it, because I think you first called me and you told me, you said, you know, hey, I wrote a song about missing women and about Juarez. My first reaction, and I'm like you. I'm like, there's a bunch of work, and you know, you have to be very selective and you have to be selective in towards being of what you're passionate about it, and see if there's a connection there. And you know, if it's like, hey, I have this song, I would like to make a music video about, you know, something
sure.
like totally like that. It's now a connection to me. It was like,
sure.
Let's just maybe you should look at another director. But when you told me, my first reaction was like, well, I mean, that's kind of weird. But you know, let's see what you got, kid.
It's fierce. It's hardcore. It's
yeah, but I mean, this is my challenge with it, that it's so freaking hard to write a song about something so tragic and especially so going on. So I was really, this was before I knew anything. So I was like, okay, just like, okay, let's benefit of the doubt or whatever.
And you did
then
such
when
an
I
amazing
when
job.
I when I heard the song, I was like, wow, holy shit,
Wow, thank you.
that's crazy. So I mean, and that in and by itself just motivated me to get me pumped and just like ready to do anything for this song. I mean, literally to get it off the ground and whatnot. And it was featured in Amnesty International, right?
Yeah, I donated this song. You know, I didn't want to make any money off of it. It was for the families. I got to meet the mothers of these daughters that they still, some of them don't even know what happened to their daughters. So I got to meet them face to face and tell them about my song. And it was very heartbreaking, but it was empowering at the same time to bring awareness to this problem. And so again, it was just, I felt strongly about it to have a voice for them. And, you know, it was like a prayer-like battle cry for those families who felt that they had been forgotten and that their daughters had been forgotten. And I think you did a brilliant job directing it, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again,
Thank
it's
you.
the thumbprint, because we care. As artists, I care. And that my mother was from El Paso, right in her backyard, you know, right there. So I have a connection to that. I have family in Juarez, cousins and this. And I mean, my grandfather had a business in Juarez. So it's not just that I'm going to write about this. I have a family connection there, a family in Juarez. So that why is why it was important to me to bring awareness to this for these women.
What is your definition of success? What does success mean to you?
Success is, that's a good question. I think it's everything you put into your life and being happy with the results. Like the journey is a success instead of the destination. Success to me is following my ambition and getting things done. Success is being in jobs that you enjoy. I have 3. Because I love diversity, so that's successful. And then I'm able to find jobs that I enjoy, which is, you know, the music and the real estate and the sales. And success is many, many things. Daily being happy with where your life is, and if it's not, making a change. Change is a success. I have many changes over the last few years. And what else?
What is the thing that you've learned the most out of those changes?
That you always have to keep in check with your feelings and how you feel, which motivates you to make the next move.
And this is something that you just learned?
You know, I knew it years ago, and I kind of lost my edge.
I know. I feel like I barely,
I felt like when I lived in New York for like 11 years and I had the New York edge, and then when I moved back to Texas, especially Austin, it was known as Slackerville. So I was like, oh no, I hope I don't become a slacker. You know, that kind of mentality. And I was so, you know.
So I guess what you're saying is that they hustle over there.
Oh man, if you don't swim, you sink, and you're with the sharks. So you're like a shark that smells blood. You really gotta be on guard. Wow. 24/7 in New York City. Here it's totally different. And here, I mean, it took me a few years to get acclimated. I love the quality of life here more. Right. At the time, New York was the perfect place for me to start my you know, to pursue the arts. New York was the perfect place for me to pursue the arts, and that was my choice. And because you're anonymous and you can fall flat on your face and no one cares. So I knew I wanted to start a rock and roll band. I knew I wanted to be the singer. I knew I wanted it to be with my name and my name only, because musicians come and go, but you will never come and go. You're always going to be there. And my ambition was so fierce that I was like, it's got to be my name. It can't be a band name, or else bands break up all the time. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
So at least I knew I was, you know, I had laser focus on that, and then on to the next.
So was there ever a point where you wanted to give up your musical career?
No, not really. I think I would always want to give it a break, sure, because I travel a lot for it, and then I'm at home, and then usually you have 2 years between your next album. And if you notice, all my albums were spaced pretty much 2 years. The first one, then 2 years. Second one, then 2 years. Third one, then 2 years. I'm already tired explaining it. And then the fourth one, take 2 years, and then the fifth one, all right, 2 years, and then the sixth one. So I mean, how much longer are you going to be going as an independent artist? Now, if you were on Sony Records and they do most of the work,
right,
and they have your managers who do most of the work, and all you get is your itinerary for the day, that's a whole different story. And then,
That's
but
crazy.
if you're the independent artist and you're the manager and you're the record label and you're the production company, it's a whole different story. It's more on you, and it's up to you to get it out there.
All right, let me ask you a philosophical question. If you lost your voice tomorrow.
I have lost my voice. You mean forever?
Yes, like forever, ever.
I lost
like
my
forever.
voice. I lost my voice during my third album. It was the week of the CD release party. It was for Firebird, and it was this ragweed, allergies.
Right.
Completely lost it. And the cool thing was, I knew I was a rock star when the doctor knew my name, because I gave him a postcard. My dad went with me. I was in San Antonio. He took me, and he says he knows you. He was your neighbor. The doctor let me cut in line. It was like 200 people waiting. And
Wow.
he let me cut in line. And that was the one time I was like, man, I'm glad I'm a rocker, man. Glad I learned how to play that guitar.
Okay, but if you lost your voice tomorrow, permanently, forever, ever, and never, what would you do?
You know what? I go by the day, so we'll see if it happens. I live for the day, so I don't think about tomorrow.
No, but let's say, like...
If I lost my voice, I have my
How would you pick yourself up from that tragedy?
If I lost my voice, I have 2 other jobs to, take me through. So
no, besides, I think you've learned, just so many lessons, I guess, throughout all the different hats that you wear.
Yeah, and I think, again, like if it was all gone tomorrow, I think that's what you're trying to say. If it was all gone tomorrow, and I've said this, if it was all gone tomorrow, I did it. I already did many, many tours. I've already gone to Europe many, many times and put out 5 albums. So if it was all gone tomorrow, I have that as my legacy, and I can always look back at it. And I'll just keep going forward and find other things to do. Doesn't bother me a bit. Wouldn't bother me, because it's not the be-all, end-all. I think the be-all, end-all is happiness and finding, having my family. My parents are still alive. That means so much to me. I see them every weekend. If I can. And so I think family's first, music's second. I don't think music has ever been really, really first. It's the only thing I own. But my family is always there for me, and I think that's, as long as they're there, I think that's my true love. And then music is what I do for a living. It's what I do to make my life worth it.
Worth it. I love that song, by the way.
Thank you. We're all worth it. I remember. And you really have to find a value in what you do, and that's where negotiations with what you do for a living. You can't sell yourself short. Don't settle for less in your private life or with music. If you're an artist, you really have to see what value you hold, and that takes a lot as well. Because you're so used to being with yourself. I'm so used to, I could do this. Just make the right choices. But just don't ever forget your value. That's tricky.
It is. So do you know your value, I assume?
I am, it depends what situation comes my way, but I have to stand up for myself sometimes. That's the tricky thing when you don't really have a manager. You're your own manager. You have to really...
Has there any been that situation? Or?
There's certain times where you take a pay cut if you're going to be sharing the bill with somebody, and you know that the headliner is going to get more. You have to weigh those things out. Is it worth doing? Some things like that. And then sometimes if you ask for more, they will see that you are worth it, and you can bring your own crowd. But you have to spell it out to them. Things like that.
Yeah, definitely.
But instead of just saying, is that your budget? Okay. No, this is what I'm used to getting, and this is what I think we are worth if you're going to put our name on the bill. Things like that.
Interesting. Do you have a favorite place where you like to play?
I love the Continental Club in Austin, Texas. It's one of my favorite clubs on the planet. It's where I started out when I first moved back to Texas. And I throw my birthday party every year there, and the owner is so awesome. He throws this hot rod fest every year too, and I've written so many songs. I get my rockabilly fix with that inspiration alone, like Rattle My Cage.
Right,
the first
yeah.
few lines is steel metal cruisers are out tonight. Totally Continental Clubs with hot rod roundup.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay. I've already taken a lot of your time, but I have some last question. I will do this again sometime. All right?
Sure.
Promise me.
Te prometo.
Okay. Palabra. Okay. But this is a really interesting question. When... Hang on. It's just because artists... hang on. No. I'm here. I'm with you. I'm here. Here, artists sometimes feel like imposters.
They feel like actors.
Okay. Did you ever feel like an imposter? Like, and I'm not talking about like an imposter,
yeah.
But sometimes we feel like, oh my God, maybe I'm borrowing too much from this, or maybe I'm interpreting
overacting,
sure. or not being yourself, or being. When did you stop being an imposter, if you ever were one?
I see what you're saying. Sometimes when you're on stage and you don't have a lot to grab from the audience, like say they're really far away, I tend to see that on a big stage. Sometimes I like smaller stages because they're right there. And so you put on a show. I put on a show. And I love to incorporate dance, and I love to play the castanets. And sometimes, you have to get into the zone. What makes me not feel like an imposter or overacting or being too theatrical is just really getting into the zone, and what you see is what you get. Because I think sometimes I would really try to put on a show and try to grab people, and they're so far away, or, they're just, when I go see a show, I'm not always like, yeah. I'm completely just watching. And sometimes for the person on the stage, they think they're just not responding, but it's the total opposite. They're just completely riveted at the show, or really looking at what you're doing in each person, and their thing is just being very calm.
All right, I have one more request.
Sure.
And that's if you we'll edit this out. Can you do a song for us?
Sure.
All right. Let her rip.
All right, this song I'm going to choose because it's very uplifting, it's buoyant, and it's about the hometown of the Spanish poet Federico Garcia Lorca. And I love singing this song because I tried to capture his ebullient spirit and his childhood in Fuente Vaqueros, which is the name of his hometown. Fuente Vaqueros means fountain of the cowboy. But as I read his poems and his book of letters, his spirit just jumped off of the stage, and wow! So he was a very exciting person. So this goes out to him, Fuente Vaqueros. Fuente Vaqueros, la joya. Fuente Vaqueros, fuente de la vida. Fuente Vaqueros, fuente de la vida. Pueblito perdido en un santuario, en las orillas del río, en la hermosa provincia de Granada, hay una joya coronada, hay una joya coronada. Fuente Vaqueros, Fuente Vaqueros, la joya, fuente de la vida. ¡Amén! veladas por la muerte, cuando entró en la plaza, bajo la luna, se detuvo a escuchar los ríos cantando bajo los árboles de olivos, donde escuché el murmullo del agua, bajo los árboles de olivos, en la provincia de Granada, bajo los árboles de olivos, hay una joya coronada, bajo los árboles